W1VLF.
Hey everybody, my name is Paul, W1VLF. Thanks for stopping back into the lab. It's been a couple weeks since my last video, and that's because my ham shack computer blew up. I mean, literally blew up. The power supply exploded inside, and it took my AirSpy HF Plus with it. But luckily, I have a spare, and a good friend has allowed me to use one of his the new discoveries. So I think I'm back up to snuff with the new computer. It's running Windows 10, and being an old guy, I like to stick with Windows 7. I have a number of computers all running the same operating system, but unfortunately, due to the, and I mean explosion, I mean it literally went BAM! Black all over the inside of the power supply. Luckily, the only thing that went bad was one of these, so I'm going to send this out for repair. Actually, this is my spare. So, but regardless, the topic today is, you see a lot in the forums about R3, the resistor on the input of this device. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a comparison between the Discovery and the HF Plus, starting in the middle of the AM broadcast band. We're going to have the exact same antenna. I have a little power splitter that will take the loop antenna, divide it into two equal powers, feed both receivers, and just take a look at the signal to noise or carrier to noise ratio, the carrier level above the noise on both of these receivers. And then we're going to move down from the broadcast band, the middle of the broadcast band, around a megacycle down to about 540 kilohertz. Then we'll go down through into the long wave bands, and I'll have both of these radios on the screen running at the same time, trying to keep all the parameters the same. The zoom, the bandwidth, the frame rates, all that stuff the same, so we can kind of go down in frequency and see what happens. And I think you'll be pretty excited. If you're a long wave guy or VLF guy, you're going to really be impressed with this. And then after we make those comparisons, we'll come back to the shop here, short out this R3 resistor that you hear about, and then we'll do the same comparison over again and see what happens. So with that, I'm just going to pop the cover off of this. I have some close-up pictures so you can see where R3 is. I'll insert those in here somewhere along the line. And but I'm going to pop the cover off. We'll take a look at it, and I'll be right back. Alright, well, we're back. Magic hands here on the Group W bench. Here's a size comparison for you. And we'll just pop off the cover on this the HF Plus. Man, I'll tell you, for going for the AM broadcast band, shortwave, and the top of the long wave band, this is really my go-to receiver. Get that one out of there. Okay. It's going to be a little difficult to see. R3 is this guy right here. Zoom in a little bit. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to zoom in because I have some real close-up pictures that will detail everything for you. So I'm going to go put both of these on the ham shack computer, fire it up, and we'll be back to take a look at what the response looks like. Then we'll come into the shop, solder this up, bypassing R3 here, and then we'll do the same comparison again and see what happens. Should be interesting.
Okay, so two pictures of the AirSpy receiver with the cover off. One is kind of a wider shot showing everything inside, and the second one shows R3 in pretty good detail. I also mentioned earlier that I was using a power splitter to divide the power from the antenna between the two radios, and that's a device made by Mini Circuits. It's kind of a pricey item, but luckily for me, something I was taking apart one time had one of these in it, And until recently, I didn't even think about it too much. But lo and behold, it works out really well. So no more talking for me. I'm going to head over towards the ham station, and we'll go from there. Okay, everybody, it's W1 VLF again. We're back at the ham Radio Shack on the new Windows 10 computer, and hopefully nothing will go wrong here. Running on the left window here up at the top, we're running the Discovery receiver, and on the right hand side is the HF Plus, old reliable. And I have the audio muted on both receivers because for the most of the time we're basically going to be looking at signal strength and the noise floor, things like that, and the audio is not that important. I'll turn it on. This is an AM broadcast station, and I'm probably get dinged if I accidentally let a little piece of music slip through there, so I'll err on the side of caution. This is 1080, about, 13 miles away. It's a 50 kilowatt station here in Connecticut. And you can see that both signal strengths are up around S9 plus 22, 24. Very little difference between the two stations. I am using, let's see, let me go back to the bandwidth. Yeah, I'm using 192 kilohertz in each of these receivers. So nothing really exciting to see here except it's S20, 20 over S9. By the way, the receive antenna for both of these comes in through a little mini circuits power splitter, which I have swept and looked at both outputs to make sure that neither one of them is giving an unfair advantage to one receiver or the other. And it's flat down to about 25 kilohertz. So there's no issues there. So, okay, big deal. Here we are at 1080. So let's drop down a little bit in frequency. We'll go to down to 910 and take a look at that station. Just a little bit further in the band here. So, and we'll center it back up on that side. I suppose there's a better way to do this. Should have probably programmed these all into memory, and it would have been easier to switch. But no, we'll just do it this way. All right. So, and we'll center that one up as well. So where are we now? We're about plus 16, 17. So we're under a megacycle right now. This station's probably 15 miles away as well. We'll just drop down to something out of New York. To 710 WOR is in New York City. And we'll center both of those up. And again, seems like there's a little bit of signal difference between these two. 3 dB. Probably going to vary over the course of frequency, but it gets very, very dramatic as you get further down. And this mod to bypass that R3, I've been told, makes the long wave part of the spectrum, long wave and VLF, come way up. So this will make sure we go back and look at some of these stations and try it again. Okay, so let's drop to 610. This is my good buddy right up the road here at an S9 plus 36 over on both of them. No big deal. I'm just going to make a note here that I did 1080, 910, 710, 610, and I'll grab the signals and then we'll do we can do a comparison. All right, so let's move down to the bottom of the broadcast band at 540 and see what it looks like there. So we'll go 5. Okay, 540 is something on Long Island. I think that's about 60 miles away, roughly, somewhere in that neighborhood. Still about an S8. They're still tracking pretty well. The next thing we're going to go to is down at 293 kilohertz, and that's a differential GPS station from Long Island. Remember, Discovery here is on the left-hand side, and the old reliable HF Plus is on the right-hand side. So let's drop down there to 293 and see what that looks like. Okay, 293. Like I said, I probably should have done this with memories, but you know how it is when you get old, you forget how to do stuff. All right, so let's see what happens here. So right now we're into the long wave band. The Discovery is S9 plus 1 or 2 dB, varies slightly depending on the modulation, and we're down to an S6.5 to 7 on the HF plus. The next signal we're going to go take a look at is, let's see, it's 12:30 in the morning here. This is about as bad as the long wave propagation is going to get. Okay, everybody, I'm back. Had a telephone call there, sorry. But we're going to resume here at DIW at 100, which is a non-directional beacon from North Carolina. Here, we'll pop this up real quick. If you want to find non-directional beacons, you want to go to this place, the dxinfocenter.com, and you do a control F, and then DIW, and that's the only one listed for North Carolina, or for DIW. This is kind of like a little sidebar here, Dixon, North Carolina. I've been listening to this one for like since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. Basically, though, you right-click and highlight the coordinates. Highlight the coordinates, right-click, search for it, and that's the location of the beacon itself. So let's grab a hold of that. From the sky, you can see the you can kind of see the tower and where it's located. Unfortunately, you can't go and get a road shot. Evidently, nobody's interested in seeing one of these beacons. But if we right-click and do a measure, we go back to the normal map. Okay, all the way up here. All the way up here to Connecticut. Where the heck did we go? There we are. This is where I am. It's about 552 miles. So daytime long wave reception from 552 miles away. All right, let's close this and we'll go back and look. Okay, so here it is on the Discovery. And if we look over here in the same place, you can barely see it. Here it's registering less than an S1 and approximately an S3 or 4. Let's take a listen to it on the Discovery. DIW. This is weak enough during the day so that you can use it as a kind of a bellwether of what band conditions are like or how your antenna system is working. Let me mute this. We'll go over to the other side. This is the HF Plus unmodified. It's there, but very, very, very weak. I'll mute this one again. And let's drop down to, let's see, I don't know what else is in the middle here. Let's drop down to 60 kilohertz, which is WWVB, and we'll see what happens to the relationship between the two receivers. I'm really thinking I should have done this with memories. But, okay, put that in the middle. And we'll go down here. Sorry, folks. We'll go down to 60. And put that in the middle. Okay, at 60 kilohertz, it becomes really, really apparent, the difference between the two. There's just no signal whatsoever here on the HF Plus. And if I pop this guy open here on the Discovery, you can hear the 60 kilohertz transmitter from Boulder, Colorado. It's not Morse code. It's a binary coded decimal. Mute that one. And there's just nothing to be heard here at all. So let's go to, we'll go a little bit deeper into the long wave band. Go to 40.8. or 40.7. Maybe it's 7.5. Okay. And 40. Sorry about this. I will try to learn how to use the memories next time when I'm trying to do a comparison like this. Okay, so you can see over here in the spectrogram that the 40 kilohertz signal is there. Not very strong, but it's a big signal. Let me mute that one. We'll go over this side to discovery. Now you can actually hear the FSK or teletype-like signal, and it doesn't get any better. It just gets worse from here. Let's go to 24 kilohertz. Okay, this is in Cutler, Maine. We'll drop this one down. And you may be able to see this one a little bit. Let's see, because it's so strong. Let me move this guy out of the way. And this one here too. Move it over here. So here it's about an S4. Here it's 10 over S9. Take a listen. Okay. Go to the other side. Barely. Look at the difference in signal to noise ratio. This one is S9 plus 20, and this one is about an S4. And this is a relatively good size antenna. Let me mute that out. Listen to this one again. And there's one more we're going to try, and then I'll go back to the bench, and that's at 19.1 kilohertz. And let's see here. 0.1. Okay. You can see it down here in the spectrogram. It's not a real strong signal and looks like there's a bit of noise today. The discovery again. And let's put this in the middle. There's no sign of it whatsoever on the HF Plus. So yeah, it looks like there's another one here at 19.6. In fact, there's just nothing here at all in the on the HF Plus. But now we're going to go into the other room. I'm going to not show you the actual soldering because working on something this small is going to take me a few minutes and that would be kind of burdensome. So I will do that and then come back and reconnect. Turn that off. Turn that off. And I'll come back, reconnect the receivers, and we'll go up through the frequencies again and try to get the comparison in levels. So W1 VLF heading back to the bench. Okay. For what seemed like a few seconds for you was about a half hour for me. And I have to apologize, man. I didn't realize how easy it was to put memories in and into console. If I had known that how easy it was, I wouldn't have put you through all that pain. But hopefully you stuck around to this point to see to see the results. So, all right. So we're going to start off at 1080 again. I have both radio stations muted. What we had before was about a 20 over, which you're seeing up here on the left side, which again is the Discovery, and the HF Plus is on the other side. And it looks like we have a little bit more gain in the system than we did before because the signal is up a little bit from the S9 plus 20 over, 21 over, something like that. So a little bit more gain there, but things haven't really changed radically. So let's drop down in frequency. Look at this right here. It's all right here, and I put you through all that pain before. I apologize, man. So let's drop to 910 on both of these. 910 kilohertz is an S9 plus 14 on the Discovery. And a little bit, so it looks like there's about 10 or 12 dB extra gain here in the HF Plus. That changed. So maybe somebody might want to make a comment on that. Let me just move this out of the way, and so we can center these things up. So 27 to to 15, so about 12 dB of extra gain on the right-hand side here. You can probably see that too in the waterfall. So okay, so let's drop down again. We're going to drop down to 710 on both sides. Wow, is this easy? S9 plus 10 over on WOR from New York City on the Discovery, and again 12 dB of additional gain. Maybe if somebody from AirSpy is watching, they could make a comment as to why where that extra gain came from, or maybe the value of R3 needs to be to have some other value. I don't even know what the value is. I just, from what I've read in the forums, decided to bypass it and see what would happen. So that's where we land on 710. Let's drop down to 610 on both of these. And these were essentially the same. I'm looking at the numbers I wrote down here from a few minutes ago. All the values are still the same. So what do we have here? We have about 36 and 36. Oh, so we're breaking even again. All right, so now down to 540, which is a little is a station on Long Island about 60 something miles away. Put it in the center again. Center these up so we can see the carrier, and we're at S8 and we're at S8. So, but nothing new here. These were all the same before. Next value, next station we're going to go to is 293 kilohertz, which is the Long Island differential GPS. And here's where we started seeing a difference. Before it was the Discovery had it at an S9 plus 4, and the HF Plus was at an S7. So let's pop down to that frequency and see where we land. Whoops, I must have hit something wrong here. I did. Okay. So it looks like, and we'll center it up. Do the same with this one. It looks like the additional gain, a few dB of additional gain, maybe 10 dB of additional gain here. But this was an S7 before, you know, dropping into the noise. The next one is DIW, the beacon in Dixon, North Carolina at 550 miles away. Pop that in over there and pop it in over here. And before I'm going to turn the audio on here. Oops, what happened? Oh, I didn't move this one. We'll center them up too. You noticed before there was nothing over here at all. Just a barely visible. I think I'm a little bit wider in bandwidth on this side. Well, but we're going to go with it. Okay, so we'll switch over to that side and take a listen. So the difference here before was the difference between an S4 on the Discovery side and an S1, and barely copyable. Okay, so let's drop down. We'll mute that back out again. The next one down is 60 kilohertz. 60 kilohertz on both sides. Before 60 kilohertz was about an S6 or so on the Discovery side. It's an S5. Things change a little bit over the course of a half hour. And look where it is here. Before it was an S0 or an S1, barely perceptible. And here we have quite a bit of signal strength. Look at all that noise right there. Got to find out where that's coming from. But we'll take a listen on this side. Remember, it's not CW, it's a binary coded decimal. And we'll go over this side. So the two receivers are very similar now, and I kind of like this. Well, we'll mute both of them up again. Oops. And we'll drop down to 40.75 kilohertz. Before the 40.75, that's a station in Puerto Rico, I believe, was an S7, and barely copyable with an S3 over here on the other side. And now it's up to an S9 here. We'll take a listen. Let me move this. Put it in the center of the screen. Okay. Mute that. Listen to this side. Whoop, drop it down to... yeah, I'm not quite sure what. Something is different between these two channels. I must have hit a button. But generally, you can see what's going on here. Before we had an S7 on this frequency, an S3, and barely copyable on the HF Plus. So now we're going to drop to 24 kilohertz, which was an S9 plus 10 over. Looking at my notes here on the Discovery. And S0 on the HF Plus. So we'll click over to that. And it's an S9 plus 20. A little bit more gain over here on the right-hand side now. And one more that I'll have to actually dial in, so I'll do that. 19.1. It's not too hard to do. Okay. So S4 on this side, which was an S4 originally, and the unmodified HF Plus is S0. And here we are with an S6 or so. So there's more gain on the HF Plus for some reason. Now, I'm not suggesting you go in there and make this modification. I just wanted to sort of clarify what I'd been hearing about and reading about, and see what happens for myself. Because this is a surface mount device that you're soldering to, and make sure you don't have any coffee, and you might want to spend a half an hour or so meditating before you try and make these tiny little solder connections. Anyway, I hope that proved interesting to somebody, and again, I apologize for the making you go through all those clicks in the very beginning, but I have the receiver modified now, so I can't really go back and do that over. I'll put some close-ups at the end of the video of where R3 is, and you guys can figure out what you want to do from there, but I'm not recommending that you do this. For me, it's worked out pretty well. You're kind of at your own risk. Thanks a lot for watching and listening and bearing with me, and if you wouldn't mind subscribing, because more videos are coming now that the computer is up and running, I would appreciate it. 73 from W1 VLF. I'm good in the call book.